112 years ago, the UP Board of Regents had a vision to develop their true firstborn college that will spearhead national development through agriculture. At the foot of Mount Makiling, Edwin B. Copeland, together with 7 faculty and 12 students, embarked on the journey to create the UP College of Agriculture, or UPCA. Through its 112 years of existence, the college has produced over 1,000 technologies and variety of plants and animals, 9 national scientists, over 30 outstanding young scientists, and more than 18,000 graduates contributing to agricultural development. UPCA, now College of Agriculture and Food Science, or CAFS, has been continuously contributing to nation building through its instruction, research, and extension function. A mere 10 years after establishment, the college was able to start breeding works with the production of sugarcane varieties with high productivity and resistance to Fiji and mosaic disease. In the 1920s, the importance of agriculture was intensified, and UPCA was recognized as neighboring countries began sending their students to Los Baños because of the high quality of education. A mere 10 years in the 1930s, breeds with superior characteristics such as the Burkhala pig, Los Baños Cantonese chicken, and Philippine cattle were developed. The 1960s was a fruitful decade for research. Makapuno, a coconut cultivar often made into a dessert, was pioneered and perfected. Meanwhile, the Dairy Training and Research Institute was the first in the country to freeze buffalo semen, paving the way for artificial insemination of local carabaos. Along with the establishment of UPLB in the 70s, the college received the prestigious Ramon Magsaysay Award for International Understanding, Asia's counterpart for the Nobel Peace Prize. In the same decade, the C4 plants were developed. The soil test kits were produced in support of the Masagana 99 program, and the mango induction technique was introduced. Continuing the production of quality research outputs in the 1980s, techniques to minimize post-harvest losses, the accelerated fish sauce manufacturing process, and the rapid test kit for the detection of pesticide residue on vegetables were developed. The 1990s saw many new varieties across species or crop types, including Sinta papaya, the first Philippine-bred hybrid, UPLB Gold, a durian variety, and Doña Amelita, a musaenda named after the wife of former President Fidel Ramos. The award-winning National Corn-Based Farmer Scientist RDE Training Program, or FSTP, was also established around this time and still remains as one of the university's primary extension programs. In the field of instruction, the book titled Integrating Sustainable Agriculture in the BSA Curriculum, the UPLB College of Agriculture Experience, was published in 1999. At present, the College of Agriculture and Food Science, or CAFS, continues to be the premier institution of higher learning in agriculture and food science, and remains committed to nation building through its instruction, research, and extension programs. In order to produce the best graduates, all of our courses are outcomes-based education, and continuous improvement of the curriculum is being practiced to meet the challenges of the 21st century. As testament of excellence, CAFS is constantly recognized by different organizations. In research, we continue to implement relevant studies with focus on the 12 priority commodities to address food security. Moreover, technologies are constantly developed to aid in responsible food production. Supplementing these are extension activities to disseminate the knowledge generated to improve food productivity and livelihood of the people. We believe that present technologies will future-proof our food systems. Some of our notable developments are IDTech, Caraginam, Plant Health and Pest Clinic, Pest Management Tools and Techniques, Smarter Pest Identification Technology or SPITech, Snap Hydroponics, Drone Technology, Rapid Immunofilter Assay for Virus Indexing, Nanofertilizers Fertigrow, Hormogrow, Nanobiosensors, Biochar. We at the College of Agriculture and Food Science will continue to promote and nurture a culture with innovative yet conscientious minds and cutting-edge skills to lead and serve the country and the region. We are one college with one goal towards sustainable food systems.
Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to APTv.6 version 6.0, rebooting agriculture in the new normal. Today, we are on the third episode of this series with the theme Viewpoints of Forerunners, Future of Agriculture and Food Systems. This series features the forerunners of the Philippine agriculture, those regarded as among the pillars and leaders of this field, who will share with us their visions or insights related to agriculture sector. This webinar series is brought to you by the College of Agriculture and Food Science, University of the Philippines, Las Bañas, and we are live via Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. And now we are over 100 we have over 100 viewers coming from the different regions all over the country. And on behalf of CAPS UPLB, I would like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us in our episode today. So I am Assistant Professor Nina Grace Olvidimaano, a weed scientist from the Institute of Weed Science, Entomology and Plant Pathology, or IWEP, and here at CAPS UPLB, and I am your host for today's episode. So just a quick reminder for everyone with us today. So all your microphones are muted by default to avoid any unwarranted noise in the background. So for our open forum later, kindly throw in your questions using the Q&A tab if you're here with us via Zoom, or just type in the comment section your questions for those watching live via YouTube or FB. Okay, so for the certificate of attendance, you will receive the certificate after answering the evaluation forms. So the link for the evaluation form will be provided to you by the end of this episode. Okay, so to formally start, let us hear the opening remarks from our beloved director of the Institute of Weed Science, Entomology, and Plant Pathology, none other than Dr. Cheryl A. Yap. Good morning, Director Yap.
Thank you, Ma'am Minya. So, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and wherever you are in the world, naimbag nga bigat, maayong aga, maayong adlaw, maayong buntag. Magandang umaga. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the men and women of the College of Agriculture and Food Science, led by our hardworking Dean, Elpidio M. Agbisit Jr., it is my pleasure to welcome you all on today's webinar, Price Tags of Responsible Food Production and Consumption. Thank you very much for your interest to listen and participate in today's webinar. I would like to acknowledge the great efforts of our webinar committee from the Institute of Weed Science, Entomology, and Plant Pathology, led by Prof. Julie Isa Mandap, and CAP's webinar team led by Dr. Barbara L. Kawili for organizing this event. I would like to welcome and extend our gratitude to our eminent guest for sharing her time and expertise with us. From her talk, we will learn what is responsible food production and consumption and its outcomes. We will be reminded also that in achieving economic growth and sustainable development, it requires that we instantly lessen our ecological footprint by transforming our approach in producing and consuming goods and resources. We must aim at doing more and better with less. We have to take account of the gains and less of the losses from economic undertakings. It means that we have to think on how to reduce resource use, minimize waste and pollution while improving the quality of life. We hope that this webinar will benefit you and expand your knowledge on the need in transforming agriculture for our future generation. To all our participants, please don't hesitate to ask questions to our guest. She is here to enlighten us on the current issues and trends of our economy. Again, good morning, everyone, and have a great learning.
Thank you so much for your message, Director Yap, and for welcoming everyone for this seminar series. Okay, so now, without further ado, allow me to introduce our resource person for today that we are very, very privileged to have. So our speaker for this morning joined the government right after graduation and has been a public servant ever since. She earned her Master's of Public Administration at the University of the Philippines, National College of Public Administration and Governance, and a diploma in Development Studies in Massey University in New Zealand. And she has also earned her undergraduate degree at the University of the Philippines, Manila, Bachelor of Science in Biological Sciences. At present, she is the Natural Resources and Environment Staff Director, or ANRES, of the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA. The NEDA ANRES act as oversight for agriculture and fisheries sectors and matters pertaining to the environment and natural resources. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome with her talk entitled Price Tags of Responsible Food Production and Consumption, Director Nieva T. Natural.
Yes, good morning, everyone. To our colleagues from government, participants from the academe, especially to the group of the College of Agriculture and Food Science, the private sector, other distinguished guests, pleasant morning to all. I wish to thank the UP Los Baños College of Agriculture and Food Science for inviting NEDA in this event. On behalf of Secretary Carl Chua, I'm honored to join you today and share the current national government's initiatives on food security and sustainable food systems. Next slide, please. My presentation will cover the following topics. First is the state of Philippine agriculture and fisheries, which will cover the pre-COVID socio-economic context and the impacts of COVID-19 to the economy, including the agriculture and fisheries sector. The cross-cutting issues affecting the sector, including the long-standing challenges that is faced by agriculture and fisheries. Second part will be towards food security and sustainable food systems. For this portion, I will provide an overview of the country's development frameworks that support food security and sustainable systems. This covers the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals, the updated Philippine Development Plan for 2017 until 2022, and the Philippine Action Plan for Sustainable Consumption and Production. And lastly, for conclusion and ways forward, we will identify some recommendations that the UPLB may consider in its Futures Thinking program. Now we go to the state of Philippine agriculture and fisheries. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic, the Philippine economy grew more than 6% from 2012 to 2019 and was on track to achieving its goals of increasing income per capita for the country to be considered among those in the upper middle income countries like Thailand and China. And second, uplifting more people out of poverty. In fact, the 2022 promise of lifting 6 million Filipinos out of poverty was already achieved in 2018, or 4 years earlier of the 2022 target, where the poverty rate as a share of the population fell from 23.5% to 16.7% between 2015 and 2018. Also, we were even on track to further decreasing to 14% or lower by 2022. Next slide. However, with COVID-19, the country's real GDP contracted by as much as 9.5% in 2020 and 4.2% in the first quarter of 2021 due to restricted movement of people and economic activities. To some of you who have been monitoring the Philippine economic performance, this is the first time that the country experienced negative real GDP growth of such magnitude since 1998, a period of the combined El Nino and the Asian financial crisis. Nevertheless, we are happy to note that the second quarter of 2021 posted a growth rate of 11.8% as reported by the Philippine Statistics Authority last week. However, we remain cognizant of the huge losses incurred by the economic sectors due to quarantine restrictions and limited private consumption and demand, leading to unemployment and hunger and possible reversal of our gains in poverty reduction initiatives. While our unemployment rate is already significantly lower than the record high 17.7% in April 2020, it is still at 8.7% in April 2021, which is equivalent to about 4.14 million unemployed Filipinos at working age of 15 years old and older. Sorry, there is a little lag in my screen. Now, let me describe the agriculture sector performance in the past years and how the sector was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2019, the sector posted a growth of 1.2%. However, this growth is still below the target set in the Philippine Development Plan of 2017 to 2022 of between 2.5 to 3.5%. Even prior to the pandemic, some of the agriculture subsectors already exhibit challenges. The livestock subsector, for instance, which was the sector's major growth driver, has exhibited a decline in its performance, which can be attributed to the African swine fever outbreak, which since then affected several provinces, particularly in Luzon. However, as of latest report of the monitoring of ASF, it has also spread to Visayas and Mindanao. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic further affected the sector. In fact, no sector was spared as our industry and services were also heavily affected. Specific to the agri and fisheries sector, it posted a decline in performance by 0.2% in 2020 and 1.3% and 0.1% in the first two quarters of 2021. Worth emphasizing is the fact that in the second quarter of this year, only the agriculture and fisheries sector registered negative growth. Industry and services already exhibited recovery with positive growth rates for this period. This is despite the efforts made by government to support farmers and fisherfolk and the positive outlook of farmers and fisherfolk to continue their respective agricultural activities amid the pandemic. I think we skipped one slide. Yes. The weak performance of the sector can be attributed to the persisting challenges posed by climate or weather disturbances, pest and animal diseases, weak global demand, and increased competition, resulting in decrease in the value of top exports, for example, coconut, and weak coordination and convergence efforts among government agencies and stakeholders. These long-standing challenges in the sector, coupled with the emerging challenges brought about by the pandemic, for example, sporadic disruption in the supply chain, strict regulation of operations of wet markets, supermarkets, and retail food establishments, are expected to put further fresh pressure on the sector. All in all, we view the following as the major cross-cutting issues that continue to affect the country's agriculture and fishery sector. One is limited farm-to-market connectivity, food safety, and nutrition support. Satisfying hunger is not enough. It is important that food must be accessible, affordable, safe, and nutritious, especially under the new normal. Second issue is inadequate post-harvest facilities and weak food waste management. The inadequacy of these support facilities result in food losses and wastage. Massive quantities of food are lost due to spoilage and infestation, and high percentage of post-harvest losses due to the lack of applicable technology, facilities, and equipment, thereby making our produce less competitive and not able to command higher prices. In a seminar that we attended, sponsored by the UN, they estimated that there is about 1,717 metric tons of food wasted per day in the Philippines. So that's a lot. Adding to these issues are the unsustainable consumption patterns and behavior that exacerbate food wastage. Third is in environmental degradation. Growing population and increasing demand for food exerts pressure on the scarce natural resources. If we continue doing farming and fishing in a not sustainable manner, we risk further degrading and polluting our land and coastal and marine resources, which in turn can further lower productivity and affect our competitiveness. Fourth, are limitations in labor and capital inputs. Social protection and support systems for smallholder farmers and fisher folk remain weak, and they continue to lack access to agriculture assets. Thus, less and less young people engage in agriculture. However, we hope that this trend will be reversed as we digitalize our agriculture value chains. Fifth is vulnerability to natural hazards and other shocks and stresses. While the sector is highly vulnerable already to natural disasters and other shocks, investments remain limited to make the sector more sustainable, resilient to risks posed by these disasters. Now we go towards the third part, towards food security and sustainable food systems. Let me share some of the development frameworks which guide us in addressing the foregoing issues towards ensuring food security and sustainable food systems. As we know, SDG serves as the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The SDGs address the global challenges we face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. The Philippines is very much committed to achieving SDG 2, Zero Hunger, and SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, which sets forth the indicators and targets to transform towards sustainable agriculture and fishery sectors and fostering sustainable food systems across the entire value chain. The updated Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022 has been enhanced during its medium-term updating and is now the blueprint to serve as the country's resiliency plan. Under this plan, we target to have an agriculture and fishery sector adopting a digitally supported value chain guided by a science-based approach and decision support tools towards ensuring sustainable and resilient production and food availability, expanding access to markets by small farmers and fishers, and to um, improving access of consumers to nutritious, affordable, and safe food. Supporting these sectoral strategies are the bedrock interventions to ensure ecological integrity of our terrestrial and coastal and marine ecosystems so that they will be able to continue providing the services necessary to sustain our agriculture and fishery sector. Now we go to the Philippine Action Plan for Sustainable Consumption and Production, or PAP for SCP. I would like to share with you that the PAP for SCP, which is very relevant in supporting the transition to sustainable food systems, NEDA spearheaded the development of this document with support from the Asian Development Bank to serve as a guiding framework to facilitate green recovery as well as influence and steer sustainable behavior and practices across sectors that improve management of natural resources and environment and enhance resiliency against diseases and pandemics. I will share the key actions relevant to sustainable food systems in the succeeding slides. The action plan identifies programmatic policy reforms and set of actions over the short term, 2021 until 2022, medium term until 2030, and long term, covering 2030 to 2040 in time with the Ambisyon Natin 2040. Supporting these frameworks are the priority programs and projects implemented by the Department of Agriculture and other concerned agencies. Zeroing in on the updated PDP 2017 to 2022, the plan will continue to focus on translating the Ambisyon Natin 2040 and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, as well as the 0 to 10-point socio-economic agenda into concrete strategies, policies, programs, and activities that respond to changes under the new normal for the remaining PDP period. The PDP intends to have a healthy and resilient Philippines. The sector is under the pagbabago pillar. So yun pong color blue, particularly contributing on those encircled in red. That is expanding opportunities and access to economic opportunities Let me also direct you to the additional priority of ensuring food resilience integrated in the updated plan's strategic framework. The following are the three sector outcomes. Sector outcome 1 is about sustainable and resilient
Ate,
production,
ayog kalimti ang halo-halo nga kanon.
and food availability ensured. Sector output 2 is access to markets of small farmers and fisherfolk expanded. And third is access of consumers to nutritious, affordable, and safe food improved. New strategies have also been introduced to ensure that the sector adapts to the new and better normal, where the following are expected to persist. One is greater emphasis on food security, sporadic agri-food supply chain disruptions, increased reliance on online or digital transactions for food commodities, increased demand for innovative technologies for processing and packaging to keep up with the increased demand for processed food products with longer shelf life, and reduced demand from institutional buyers for agricultural food items due to the decline in tourism and dine-in services. Significant changes, slow down. Okay. The chapter also puts forward the following cross-cutting strategies: strengthen coordination and convergence of government agencies in undertaking joint planning, monitoring, and budgeting for priority programs and projects, utilize and regularly update the E&F management information systems as a strategic targeting mechanism for identification and prioritization of beneficiaries, and third, institutionalize the El Nino Task Force as a permanent body rather than an ad hoc task force to ensure the preparedness of the AFF sector, promote agribusiness courses and training programs, farm tourism, enterprise development, and others, and under collaborative schemes. Intensify activities on increasing resilience of the ANF sector to climate and disaster risk. This will be cross-referred to Chapter 20, which I will discuss in the next slide. To support the country's development goals and sustain our economic sectors, including the agri and fisheries sector, the strategic framework for Chapter 20 on ensuring ecological integrity, clean and healthy environment was also revisited and enhanced. The overall sector outcome is now more focused on ensuring ecological integrity while improving the socioeconomic condition of resource-dependent communities by enhancing their risk resilience. This, there are three key subsector outcomes towards this overall sector outcome. Subsector outcome 1 aims to sustain biodiversity and ecosystem services through government efforts that will intensify the protection, conservation, and rehabilitation of natural resources as well as accelerate the adoption of innovative technologies for enforcement and monitoring of wildlife and habitats. Outcome 2 aims to strengthen law enforcement to enhance compliance with environmental standards and safeguards and consequently improve environmental quality. Innovative waste and pollution abatement measures will also be implemented to address the rapid generation of waste and other pollutants, especially with the experience during COVID-19. Outcome 3 aims to enhance the resilience of communities by strengthening government capacities to adopt proven SICAM-DRR measures and to increase opportunities for sustainable livelihood through proper management and use of the natural capital. Further, the framework is enhanced by treating sustainable consumption and production as a cross-cutting concern. To accelerate the implementation of SCP, we prioritize actions embodied in the Philippine Action Plan for Sustainable Consumption and Production, which, as mentioned earlier, are geared towards having more Filipinos consume and produce green goods and services and shift towards sustainable and climate-smart practices and lifestyles. The POP for SCP can also help steer the country's green recovery and support a more sustainable development pathway for the Philippines. The other cross-cutting strategies are retained as indicated in the slide. Next. Now let me discuss the POP for SCP in more detail. The Action Plan's strategic framework has a vision to improve living conditions of current and future generations of Filipinos. This is aligned with the country's long-term vision of strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life for all Filipinos. It further qualifies this life to be more sustainable, where Filipino consumers and producers will increasingly prefer green goods and services to accelerate the shift towards sustainable and climate-smart practices and lifestyles. In order to achieve the plan's vision and goal, it aims to internalize and integrate the social and environmental impacts of economic activities in the market system by being able to value the economic, social, and environmental costs and benefits of production and consumption processes to be able to efficiently and equitably use and allocate natural resources. There are four intermediate outcomes to be pursued. First is institutionalization of natural capital accounting, which the NEDA has recently embarked in. Second is determination of ecological limits and negative externalities in our development activities. Third is increasing innovation and investments in the development of green technologies and systems and practices, including circular economy approaches. And fourth, establishing sustainable allocation of natural resources and equitable sharing of benefits from these resources. All of these outcomes are hinged on the implementation of priority reforms and actions categorized into four nodes, which are policies and regulations, research and development, innovation and technology, infrastructure, especially sustainable ones, and promotion and education activities. Lastly, for the promotion and education, I skipped some. Specific to promoting sustainable food systems, the PAP for SCP prioritizes the following actions across the plan's four nodes. For policy and regulations, it covers strategies to strengthen green certification schemes, especially those related to sustainable or organic agriculture and fisheries. And second, develop a food waste management policy to address the country's food waste problem by adopting a system to promote, facilitate, and ensure the reduction of food waste through redistribution and recycling and establishment of community composting. R&D will cover the development of a methodology and criteria to determine maximum sustainable yield and to ensure sustainability, especially in our agriculture sector. Assessment and forecasting of green market trends, including Filipino food consumption patterns and food waste. For infrastructure, the plan aims to increase public and private investments in storage, collection, treatment, recovery, and disposal facilities of solid and hazardous waste, including food waste. Lastly, for promotion and education, key strategies includes the following: encouraging companies, especially hotels and restaurants, to green their supply chains, advocating sustainability certification for food products, and helping influence consumer preference, designing and conducting public information campaigns, maximizing social media to emphasize the benefits of healthy diet and environment-friendly dining options, encouraging community or household composting, and cutting down on food waste. Next, we go to conclusion and ways forward. We look forward to the successful implementation. Wait, maybe I skipped a slide. In view of the foregoing, to support food security and shift to sustainable food system, the following strategies can be undertaken by the government and other stakeholders. In particular, the UPLB Futures Thinking Program may consider contributing or focusing its research and technology development efforts on the highlighted aspects. The ones in red, inside the red box: sustainable food production and risk resilience. On sustainable food production, promote nature positive production technologies and practices through inclusion in the education system. Second, fill in data gaps and contribute to the assessment of the extent of degraded soils or farmlands and what remains available for productive use, and recommend technologies or models for farming and fishing to be made more sustainable and within ecological limits. And third, promote widespread adoption of organic farming technologies. Now, on resilience to various types of risks, shocks, and stresses, we recommend research, develop, and adapt technologies that are adapted to local conditions to raise yields and reduce the risk of production um, failure. Second, adapt finance-based forecasting for early warning systems. Provide climate information service at community or municipal level with modeling and scenario simulations as part of Futures Thinking initiative. Identify and implement disaster risk reduction measures at the local level, and support investment in sound and climate smart infrastructure. The other actions needed can be undertaken through whole of government and nation approach. On food security, with emphasis on food safety and nutrition, we can develop and adopt sustainable packaging and labeling, traceability, among others, to support the full implementation of the Food Safety Act. Second is nutrition-related interventions, for example, food fortification and the milk code. On reducing post-harvest losses and food wastage, we can pursue intensifying consumer education towards healthy food consumption and reduction of food wastage, establishment of food banks for the storage and redistribution of food, and third, establish more post-harvest facilities for storage, processing, and value adding, including cold chain interventions. On decent work and equity, we suggest extending social and labor protection, supporting farmers in transition to sustainable livelihoods, such as through interim funding and alternative livelihoods, enhancing and scaling up of business management and sustainability training among farmers, promotion of farm consolidation and clustering, and continuously engaging stakeholders and create avenues for multi-stakeholder participation. Underpinning these strategies are game-changing technologies in the agriculture and fisheries sector, which the UPLB should help pilot test for potential replication and scaling up. For example, Agriculture 4.0 comprising emerging or new technologies such as robotics, nanotechnology, synthetic protein, cellular agriculture, gene editing technology, which will likely shape and change or transform the future of agriculture and food systems. These technologies will help strengthen and upscale vertical farming and support digital agriculture, bioeconomy, circular agriculture, and aquaponics, among others. Agriculture 5.0, making use of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and machine learning to enhance farming practices by automation and introduction of modern scalable solutions that cut down risk, enhance sustainability, and deliver predictive decisions to the grower in order to make agriculture more productive. I think that is the last of my slide. Thank you for listening and good day to all. Back to you, Nenya.
Thank you so much, Director Natural, for your informative as well as insightful talk about price tags of responsible food production and consumption. And indeed, we have learned a lot from your talk. And thank you so much for sharing with us some of the agenda, priorities, strategical framework, and action plans of NED and NARES for attaining sustainable food system, agriculture, and fisheries and food security. So now I'm sure that the participants are looking forward to the open forum. So if you have questions to our speaker, you may now type in your questions in the Q&A via Zoom or in the comment section on FB or YouTube. Okay? So if you wish to raise a question live here on Zoom, just click on the raise hand button. And we have Mom Claire Tabernilia and Mom Noeline Aram in the background to make sure that all our questions from across platforms will be relayed to Director Natural. So to facilitate our open forum, I'd like to call on our moderators, Sir PJ Rehuso and Sir Roden Carlo Lizardo, an entomologist and plant pathologist respectively in our institute. So hello, Sir PJ and Sir Roden.
So, thank you, Ma'am Nina, and good morning once again, Director Natural.
And also good morning to all our participants today. Truly, there are a lot of things going on in the government, and there's a lot of plans and a lot of things to achieve. Looking forward to yung plan natin ng Ambition 2040. So let's begin the open forum with this question. No? So far we don't have a question sa chat box, but I'd like to start this forum with the question: what could be the role of the youth? No? And how can we engage them to participate in sa mga plans and goals ng government, and given na sa ating mga Philippine Development Plan po, and also sa Ambition 2040.
I think the Department of Agriculture have current programs to encourage the youth to participate in agriculture, and they even have special window, credit window for the youth to engage in agriculture. So they are continuing to engage the youth and also promoting digital technology, which should interest more yung younger generation.
That's good to know, ma'am. So basically po, alam naman natin na the youth are the future of our nation. Siyempre, dapat integrate talaga natin sila sa ating mga plano. Then here's another question, ma'am, from our chat box. How can municipalities, industry, as well as the academe help in the future thinking initiatives toward food security?
Perhaps the academe can lead the way, no? Kasi meron namang mga state universities and colleges na spread all over the country. So engaging the local government units, especially for developing the value chains, could fast track development of agriculture. For example, when I was still in DA, we found out na yung isang problem ng calamansi growers in Mindoro, yung seasonality ng calamansi. Pagka tag-calamansi, sobrang bagsak yung presyo. So they sought the help of UPLB para magkaroon ng longer shelf life or yung spread naman yung fruiting ng calamansi. But since umalis na ako sa DA, hindi ko na alam kung anong nangyari doon. Kasi kung isang period lang, let's say mga 3 months lang yung marami yung fruits ng calamansi, wala naman silang magandang storage facility. So ang nangyayari, bagsak presyo. So kawawa yung farmers. So yun yung siguro one example where the academe can help in terms of the science of extending the shelf life or producing or value adding yung mga commodities. So yun. Marami naman tayong SUCs spread all over the country, and I think ang ngayon, especially next year, I understand i-implement na yung Mandanas ruling, parang mas marami ng pondo ang LGUs. So I think the academe should take that opportunity. Mag-offer sila ng ng mga new technologies. I'm sure maraming researchers in the campuses na merong pwedeng i-offer sa mga local government chief executives.
So truly po, no, it's not really about productivity lang. So looking at the value chain, so maraming points of intervention. And as you mentioned a while ago, yung po sa calamansi, instead of only focusing on the productivity given a seasonal ang calamansi, why can't we do additional research in terms of post-harvest handling and extending shelf life? Okay, so next question is, in terms of research and development, what are some of the criteria developed or identified in the determination ng tinatawag nating maximum sustainable yield?
So, for example, yung sa fisheries, no, kailangan ma-understand din ng halimbawa, scientist or kahit yung common tao na hindi pwede yung harvest ka lang ng harvest. So kailangan alam mo yung seasonality. That's why meron din tayong na-declare na mga closed season for sardines at saka may isa pang species. So dapat alam natin kung hanggang saan yung capacity ng mga, kasi living organisms yan, hindi naman yan na non-living na pwede mong i-mass produce. Meron siyang life cycle eh. So dapat malaman din natin yon para ma-match natin, for example, yung MSY sa fisheries alam din natin kung hanggang saan yung limit ng pwede nating hulihin para i-respect din natin yung nature. Kasi hindi pwedeng harvest ka lang ng harvest. In the end, mangyayari, wala ka nang mahuhuli.
Yes, ma'am. That's a very good insight po. Siyempre, dapat po hindi tayo short-sighted and hindi lang yung current state po yung ating iisipin. Dapat siyempre po yung sa kalagayan po sa ating future. So, ma'am, here's another question po from our chat box once again. So, what is the most immediate concern that must be acted in terms of food security, especially in light of our pandemic?
Sa ngayon, no, with our coordination sa Department of Agriculture, they are focusing on addressing yung logistics problem, bringing yung produce kasi yung atin namang mga production areas at yung demand side nasa National Capital Region, and we have experienced that last year. Nagkaroon tayo ng problema sa mga deliveries dahil yung iba-ibang probinsyang dadaanan, iba-iba yung rules nila sa quarantine, di ba? Yung may mga tawag dito, checkpoint, tapos yung iba kailangan mo munang mag-undergo ng ilang days of quarantine. So, I think yung Department of Agriculture is on top of the situation naman. Even before itong recent declaration ng ECQ, nag-announce na sila na yung meron kasi silang ini-issue na parang stickers for truck, nagdi-deliver ng mga trucks ng mga food items, na valid pa rin yung na-issue na nila na food lane. So ibig sabihin, pag nakita yun ng mga nasa checkpoint, they will be let through or allowed to pass dahil nga highly perishable yung dala-dala nila. Aside from that, they are establishing yung mga nag-post sila ng mga kadiwa stores doon sa areas na deficit or especially yung sa city, hindi naman kasi nag-produce ang Metro Manila, di ba? Konti lang siguro dahil sa pandemic, some of the households nag-engage sa urban agriculture, but that is not enough to sustain yung requirements ng Metro Manila. Aside from that, tinitingnan din nila yung buong value chain from production hanggang table so that makikita nila kung saan nagkakaproblema. So yun yung ginagawa ngayon ng DA to address yung mga concerns sa pandemic.
So a lot of things have done, no, since the start of pandemic, and yung mga intervention points, like for example, is improve accessibility ng food supply, given na sa Metro Manila is from the source papunta sa Metro Manila is yun yan, nag-iiba-iba din yung ating mga quarantine measures. So gladly ngayon mas nag-i-improve tayo and mas malinaw sa atin kung ano yung tamang action in order to avoid yung mga gantong problems. Another question is from Elisa Delia. So how could we help or provide assistance to our agriculture graduates, especially those who have been stricken by ASF, to recover from bankruptcy? What specific window from NEDA or other financial government agency?
Okay. So, ang NEDA, wala kaming pera. So, ang function kasi namin policy making. So, we are not engaged in providing financial assistance. But there is yung Agriculture and Credit Policy Council, sila yung nag-organize and nag-orchestrate ng credit assistance. But they are not lending directly. They go through the regular government financial institution. So meron silang mga credit windows na sinet up na low interest tapos longer yung repayment period. Kaya lang hindi ko matandaan yung lahat pero medyo madami siya. You can visit the ACPC website to look into the available credit windows. They are working with Land Bank, Development Bank of the Philippines, as well as rural banks.
So, thank you, ma'am. So, ayun po, malinaw po na meron naman po tayong available sa ating pong internet po para kontakin po regarding po sa ganito mga problema po. So, another question po, ma'am, from Ma'am Elisa pa rin po. So, PSU as academic institution could only provide the technical assistance of our technology generated from research like mushroom production technology as possible business venture since almost all the raw materials needed are low cost and abundant in the environment. No need to be dependent on imported inputs like swine production. So comment po pala yun. So, ma'am, here's another question po talaga. So, from Miss Laarni Lazaro, so those technologies to be pursued and introduced towards efficient value change in agriculture do not have the same environmental impact. How will you determine the environmental impact of these technologies? And will you categorize these innovations and technologies according to their environmental impact? Thanks po.
Lahat naman ng mga projects na ini-introduce have to, especially yung mga papasok sa ICC, yung Investment Coordinating Committee, where we match yung mga requirements for investment with potential development partners. Nag-go through yan ng economic as well as environmental assessment. Kasi hindi lang tayo mindful of the profits, we should also be mindful of the impacts, potential impacts of those projects on the environment. Kasi we cannot go on just thinking about money matters. Kasi in the end, babalik ka rin dun sa resource eh. Pag nasira mo na yung resource, that's the end of your enterprise. So, aside from yung ginagawa ng NEDA, na meron kaming supplemental manual to consider yung impacts on the environment, yung climate change and disaster risk. I think pag naman mga projects ng Department of Agriculture, if I can cite as an example, yung Philippine Rural Development Project, I think they have what they call environmental safeguards na kinoconsider nila sa pag-review ng mga project proposal.
And so, thank you for the answer po, ma'am. Truly, so every solution, though do we have the technologies and we also need to identify ano ba yung kanyang environmental impact, to avoid yung further externalities na hindi natin na-account. Looking forward to have into this the concept of sustainability. Okay, so we have a participant who raised her hand. So, Mr. or Miss Mercado, do you want to raise your question live? Mr. Mark Antonio Mercado.
Hello, sir.
Yes, you have turned on your mic, Mr. Mercado.
May problema yata yung audio ni sir. Perhaps if I may suggest, i-key in na lang sa chat box.
Okay.
May problema yung audio.
While waiting for the question of Mr. Mercado, so we have this question from the chat box from Mr. Jose Cubelo. So, to what extent have our government agencies promoted green certification among our agri-producers, and what challenges were encountered in the pursuit of such objective?
Okay. So the government, through the Department of Trade and Industry, institutionalized what we call the National Eco-Labeling Program, Green Choice Philippines, or NELP GCP. It's a voluntary third-party eco-labeling program. The NELP GCP has started to develop the criteria for the food industry. So yun po yung alam namin na current efforts. I hope I answered your question.
So,
Although I must emphasize na at this point, it is still voluntary in nature. So walang penalty pag hindi ka sumunod.
so thank you, ma'am,
So,
for that.
mm-mm.
Sir Mercado, once again, you can still type in your question if you have one. So here's another question, ma'am. So what are the efforts made in promoting the widespread adoption of organic farming technologies?
As far as I know, yung Department of Agriculture naman is continuing yung National NOAP, National Organic Agriculture Program. And to address yung high cost ng certification, parang meron silang inintroduce na alternative to that na hindi gaanong expensive kasi yung third party certification, mahal yung bayad doon and the ordinary farmer cannot afford that. And they still continue promoting yung balanced fertilization using organic fertilizer as much as possible and yung using natural predators to address yung pests and diseases in plants.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification po. Truly, since initiative din naman ng government natin sa organic agriculture, but then it still remains a challenge, for most of our farmers, given na yung costly nga yung certification. So glad to know that our government is providing other options or cheaper options for our farmers to avail and to have them certified as organic agriculture producers. All right. So maybe we could ask.
I would like to add some more kasi doon sa solid waste 52% ng total waste generated natin is biodegradable. Of that, about 86% comes from food scraps. So tingin ko kung magsa-set up tayo ng composting facility sa LGUs, magandang initiative yon. So dalawa, you are addressing two problems. One is yung waste management at pangalawa, yung ma-generate mo doon na compost, pwede mong either ipamigay mo or use it as assistance doon sa mga farmers that live in the area. So sana ma-promote ng ng Department of Agriculture together with yung mga SUCs in the area kasi I think malaking influence din yon sa mga, halimbawa kung may mga estudyante, di ba? They can do it composting sa mga households kasi simple lang naman yung sistema nun eh. Hindi siya ganun ka-expensive to keep your food waste and convert it into compost.
Thank you po for that comment and for those suggestions. We're up to our second to the last question. So, seeing the pandemic seems to be not yet ending soon, what are some of the mitigating measures that we can do as Filipinos in terms of sustainability?
Okay. Ano ba? Ngayon na-notice ko kasi ang daming na-generate na hazardous waste because of yung mga mask natin na disposable. Tama ba? Napansin niyo rin ba yun?
Yes. Yes.
Oo. So, ang ko is, well, kung as much as possible na makapag-develop sana nung pwedeng i-wash na mga materials and yet can provide enough protection against COVID. I don't know kung kaya yung magawa but I think that's one way para ma-address natin to. Yung simple lang na problema natin sa tingin, pero in fact kung titingnan mo sa isang tao, sa isang linggo, kung araw-araw niyang papalitan yung kanyang face mask, that's 30 pieces in a month. Ilang piraso na yon sa isang taon. So kung magtatagal pa ito, I think that's one big problem that we need to address. And I think the academe can help in this area para makadevelop ng cloth mask na will provide the same protection as the disposable ones. Ako, yun yung naisip ko eh. Walang rocket science. Kailangan siguro sa ngayon, yun lang. At isa pa, dahil tayo ay parating binibisita ng mga typhoons, pag naka-lockdown tayo, mahirap din yung dadala ka ng mga tao sa mga resettlement areas or yung mga for emergency na meron pang pandemic. So I guess ang kailangan din is makapag-adapt tayo ng ways para hindi ganon yung mangyayari na magsasabay yung yung pandemic at saka yung typhoons. I don't know kung it will be kung anong klaseng facilities yung na merong protection against the spread of diseases also in the temporary shelters.
Yes, ma'am. Magandang ideya nga po yan. Dahil as well, no, during this pandemic po, hindi naman po titigil ang iba pa nating problema. Mag-a-arise pa rin po yung problem natin sa wastage, tapos sa typhoon lalo na. Pag nagsasabay-sabay pa po yan, talaga pong dapat i-address natin talaga.
Right.
So, finally, here's our last question for this very productive open forum po. So, from Sir Joseph Dimaano po. So what are the programs of the government to promote ecotourism to address the agricultural problems in the country, knowing that the Philippines is well known for agriculture? And ma'am, what innovation can we provide for both agriculture experts and tourism professionals po?
Okay. So ngayon, yung tourism is one of the most affected sectors, but they can use this time, for example, yung mga hotels, mga restaurants. Hello. Meron tayong naka-on din yung kanyang speaker, yung kanyang audio. Anyway, so the Department of Agriculture is coordinating with the Department of Tourism para dun sa ecotourism programs nila. For example, I can cite yung have you been to Bohol? One example yung Bohol Bee Farm. So may mga farm tourism activities sila, and also may mga farm demo sites that are also used for tourism purposes. Pero ngayon dahil sa mga restrictions, I don't think medyo active itong mga ito ngayon.
Okay, so thank you po for the question, and truly maganda opportunity sa given agriculture country na naman talaga tayo, and also kilala din tayo sa tourism, but this pandemic talagang drastically affect particularly yung ating tourism sector. So
siguro
again,
if I may add, nakikita ko lang sa I've been watching yung mga documentaries ng channels ng Japan and Korea. Ngayon, habang hindi pa open yung tourism areas nila, what they are doing is that through television, they are promoting yung areas nila and showing it to a wider audience. Baka pwedeng ganun ang gawin ng Pilipinas to showcase yung mga tourism areas natin. Pwede siguro merong parang host that will go around sila lang at yung crew, yung mga cameramen and all. Parang travelogue, something like that. And show it to either through social media or sa mainstream media such as television. Yun siguro yung pwedeng gawin nila habang hindi pa nag-open para ma-attract mo na yung potential tourist pagka nag-open yung economy, di pupunta sila rito, di ba?
And so, great idea po, no? Not only to our media professionals, but also for those owners, no, ng mga tourism areas. To utilize yung digital space, so i-promote yung kanilang business and also yung kanilang area for tourism using niya yung ating social media. So again, thank you very much, Director Natural, for enlightening us and openly answering all of the queries from the audience. So we surely have learned a lot from you.
I totally agree, Sir Roden. It was really a privilege to have this fruitful discussion with Director Natural. We are now thoroughly informed about the current state of economy with regards to food and agricultural system. And now we will turn you back to our main host, Dr. Dimaano.
Okay, thank you, Sir PJ and Sir Roden, and thank you, Director Natural, for answering and clarifying all questions from our attendees today. So we are indeed very fortunate to have Director Natural as our speaker this morning, and now to show our appreciation, I'd like to present this certificate to Director Neva T. Natural for serving as resource person on the topic price tags of responsible food production and consumption during the APTv.6 viewpoints of the forerunners, future of agriculture and food systems, under the webinar program Rebooting Agriculture in the New Normal, given the 17th day of August 2021 at the College of Agriculture and Food Science, University of the Philippines, Las Bañas, signed by Dr. Pompe C. Santa Cruz, Chair of the CAPS Webinar Committee, and Dr. Elpidio Agbisat Jr., Dean of the College of Agriculture and Food Science. Let us give Director Natural a round of applause, please. And of course, we will not miss this opportunity to have a souvenir with our speaker today. So may I request everyone in the panelists to open your cameras and give your best smile for a quick photo op. Please open your cameras. Okay, so ready? In 3, 2, and 1, smile. Okay, all right. Thank you very much po. So just a reminder for the certificate of attendance, you will be able to receive one after answering the evaluation. So you may access the evaluation form through the link that will be provided to you now in the chat box or comment section, or just scan this QR code that you can see now on your screen. And again, answer the evaluation form and expect to have the certificate of attendance for joining us in today's episode.
Ninya?
So now for our, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, before I leave, I'd like to thank my staff who helped me with the presentation, Eunice Kalura, Des Andal, Jessa Agcopra, Joy Bongkak, and Jane De La Rosa. Thank you everyone for helping me with this presentation. And thank you for listening for those who participated today.
Thank you very much po, Director Natural, and for all your staff. Maraming salamat po. And now, as we come closer to the end of today's webinar, may we call on the Deputy Director of IWEP, Assistant Professor Bernard O. Budot, to give us the closing remarks.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this webinar. First, let me say thank you to our speaker, Director Nieva T. Natural of the Agriculture, Natural Resources and Environment Staff, or ANRES, of the National Economic and Development Authority. By the way, we have found out that our speaker is related to one of our retired professors here at IWEP, Dr. Marina P. Natural. Ma'am, it is an honor to have you for today's episode, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise. With your presentation, many of us are enlightened with the current state of the Philippine agriculture and fisheries at this time of pandemic. With the cross-cutting issues and the strategic framework presented, many of us were given a direction where we can focus our research towards improving the Philippine agriculture and fisheries sector. Among researchable areas emphasized where UPLB and other stakeholders can come in are in the sustainable food production and risk resilience. In addition, I think we being part of the research community may have a very important role in crafting a framework or roadmap that will promote sustainable food production and consumption practices. We would also like to say thank you to the members of the webinar committee for continuously organizing a webinar like this while many of us are work from home or at the comfort of our home. With that, once again, thank you very much to all our viewers. Stay safe, and we hope to see you again in the next episode of this webinar series.
Okay, thank you, Sir Budot, for wrapping up today's episode. And again, to Director Natural, we truly appreciate you becoming part of this webinar series, and we wish you the best. So I'd like also to thank and extend our gratitude to the CAPS webinar team, Ms. Kat and Rachel, the IWEP team for assisting us behind the scenes, Ma'am Claire, Ma'am Isa, and Ma'am Noe, and to all who made the series possible. So on behalf of IWEP and CAPS UPLB, thank you to our dear participants for spending your Tuesday morning with us. So once again, this is Nina Graysel Dimaano. We hope to see you again in the next episode of APTv.6 6.0 this coming Thursday, with no other than Commissioner Sandra S. Montano and Senator Pia S. Cayetano to talk about women empowerment in agriculture. So stay safe, everyone, and stay healthy. Thank you. Maraming salamat po.
A 112 years ago, the UP Board of Regents had a vision to develop their true firstborn college that will spearhead national development through agriculture. At the foot of Mount Makiling, Edwin B. Copeland, together with 7 faculty and 12 students, embarked on the journey to create the UP College of Agriculture, or UPCA. Through its 112 years of existence, the college has produced over 1,000 technologies and variety of plants and animals, 9 national scientists, over 30 outstanding young scientists, and more than 18,000 graduates contributing to agricultural development. UPCA, now College of Agriculture and Food Science, or CAFS, has been continuously contributing to nation building through its instruction, research, and extension function. A mere 10 years after establishment, the college was able to start breeding works with the production of sugarcane varieties with high productivity and resistance to Fiji and mosaic disease. In the 1920s, the importance of agriculture was intensified and UPCA was recognized as neighboring countries began sending their students to Los Baños because of the high quality of education. In the 1930s, breeds with superior characteristics such as the Burkhala pig, Los Baños Cantonese chicken, and Philippine cattle were developed. The 1960s was a fruitful decade for research. Makapuno, a coconut cultivar often made into a dessert, was pioneered and perfected. Meanwhile, the Dairy Training and Research Institute was the first in the country to freeze buffalo semen, paving the way for artificial insemination of local carabaos. Along with the establishment of UPLB in the 70s, the college received the prestigious Ramon Magsaysay Award for International Understanding, Asia's counterpart for the Nobel Peace Prize. In the same decade, the C4 plants were developed. The soil test kits were produced in support of the Masagana 99 program, and the mango induction technique was introduced. Continuing the production of quality research outputs in the 1980s, techniques to minimize post-harvest losses, the accelerated fish sauce manufacturing process, and the rapid test kit for the detection of pesticide residue on vegetables were developed. The 1990s saw many new varieties across species or crop types, including Sinta papaya, the first Philippine-bred hybrid, UPLB Gold, a durian variety, and Doña Amelita, a musaenda named after the wife of former President Fidel Ramos. The award-winning National Corn-Based Farmer Scientist RDE Training Program, or FSTP, was also established around this time and still remains as one of the university's primary extension programs. In the field of instruction, the book titled Integrating Sustainable Agriculture in the BSA Curriculum, the UPLB College of Agriculture Experience, was published in 1999. At present, the College of Agriculture and Food Science, or CAFS, continues to be the premier institution of higher learning in agriculture and food science, and remains committed to nation building through its instruction, research, and extension programs. In order to produce the best graduates, all of our courses are outcomes-based education, and continuous improvement of the curriculum is being practiced to meet the challenges of the 21st century. As testament of excellence, CAFS is constantly recognized by different organizations. In research, we continue to implement relevant studies with focus on the 12 priority commodities to address food security. Moreover, technologies are constantly developed to aid in responsible food production. Supplementing these are extension activities to disseminate the knowledge generated to improve food productivity and livelihood of the people. We believe that present technologies will future-proof our food systems. Some of our notable developments are iDetect, Coraginam, Plant Health and Pest Clinic, Pest Management Tools and Techniques, Smarter Pest Identification Technology or SpeedTech, Snap Hydroponics, Drone Technology, Rapid Immunofilter Assay for Virus Indexing, Nanofertilizers Fertigrow, Hormogrow, Nanobiosensors, and Biochar. We at the College of Agriculture and Food Science will continue to promote and nurture a culture with innovative yet conscientious minds, cutting-edge skills to lead and serve the country and the region. We are one college with one goal towards sustainable food systems.